Today on It's Always Something in Philadelphia, we'll talk a little bit of March Madness, the Flyers being very weird, and the Sixers doing what they can to stay alive, but still losing games you'd hope they were trying to find a way to pull out, but they're doing what they can. Now, I know you want to talk March Madness. You're probably watching March Madness right now as you're listening to this, but I want to start with the Flyers and the weirdness that happened earlier this week. For those who don't know, John Tortorella, the head coach of the Flyers, he made Sean Couturier a healthy scratch. Couturier is the captain of the Flyers team, newly named captain just like a month or so ago, not even. One of the longest tenured Flyers, one of the faces of the franchise the past 5 or so years. He hasn't been playing well. He's had 1 goal in 27 games, not many assists. He's not been playing great. He's coming off an injury. He's not really 100%, but he hasn't been great. And as a leader and as a captain, that's not acceptable. But then a really weird healthy scratch where he scratched him, and then Couturier was asked about it, and he was basically like, I don't really like the way I'm being treated right now. And then reporters asked Torts about it after the game, and he got really mad at reporters. And that to me is weird. Like, if you want to go this old school route of like, hey, you're not playing great, I don't care who you are, last player on the bench, captain of the team, doesn't matter. If you're not great, you're not playing. Do you want to send that message? Fine, I get it. I don't mind it. But then like refusing or getting mad at reporter questions afterwards and like telling them like that's between me and Sean. Sure, obviously, but like the media and fans want to know like, hey, you just basically benched the captain of this team. He's not playing great. Like, just let us know, like, what's your decision making behind that? To get mad at reporters and then just be like, well, that's between us two. I think that's not a favorable move in my mind. I think that's something you got to stand on your opinion. If you're going to do that, stand on your decision. And Torts, he's a guy, he runs hot. That's kind of who he is. And maybe he just was running hot in that interview. But he seems like the guy where if he's going to do something, he should back it up. And normally he does back it up. So to get mad at the question and not understand why it's being asked, that to me is lame. Unless he's pulling one of those, hey, I'm protecting my player and I don't even want to get into it. So I'll sort of deflect from the question and just make the story of this question my anger at it, and then that pushes it aside. I don't know. To me, it's all been very weird. Again, Couturier hasn't been playing great. And what makes it even not weirder, but tough is the move worked. He put him on as a healthy scratch for the Maple Leafs, and the Flyers beat the Maple Leafs 4-3. First time beating Toronto in forever, it seems like. Had a couple lucky breaks, a couple Austin Matthews, passing up shots to get assists, and a couple of weird puck bounces. But hey, a win is a win is a win. And so you tip your cap, I guess. It did work, and they got this win without Couturier in the lineup at all. Hopefully, this moment of benching, of being this healthy scratch helps him center himself and get back to playing better hockey, or maybe just find a way to be a more productive leader. I don't know if it's like a leadership thing either. It's all very weird. It's very internal, but what's spilled out externally has just been, confusing and surprising and weird to take in on the outside as a Flyers fan. So, but they get the win 4-3. Frost, Tippett, Sanheim, and Lawton all scored to some of their main guys. It was a good game, good win. You like to see the Flyers beat some teams they haven't beaten in a while and continue to get as much separation as they can, because underneath them in the standings, things have gotten a little bit wonky. So the Islanders and Devils have actually kind of lost enough games that they're now 3 spots behind the Flyers. The Capitals, the Caps are on a pretty good tear right now. They're just 3 points behind the Flyers. Flyers with 78 points. The Caps with 75. The record's nearly identical. 35, 26, and 8 for the Flyers. 33, 26, and 9 for the Caps. So same amount of losses, 2 less wins, and 1 more tie. So I was thinking that it was going to be the Islanders and the Devils that the Flyers had to keep their eye on, but really it's the Caps now who are coming in hot, and the Flyers need to keep on winning, these big games, and especially the games that they should win against lesser teams in order to stay in this Metropolitan Division top 3 and earn that playoff spot, because the wild card standings are a lot tighter with a lot more points. So they really need to hold down this number 3 spot. They play next against the Hurricanes. Really good team this year, 43-20-6. Not going to be easy. Then they play the Bruins, and then they play the Panthers. So they have a gauntlet of games coming up, and they need to win more than they lose, maybe 2 out of 3 or 1 out of 3 in this stretch and a couple games after that. But they need to get some wins in the scoreboard or else they're going to get lapped or caught up by the Caps. Really quickly, also news by the Flyers, they announced Wayne Simmons. They're going to sign him to a one-day contract. He will retire a Flyer. I think that's awesome. He played on a lot of teams, spent the majority of his career on the Flyers. For me, growing up, Wayne Simmons was someone I always remembered and always admired, and he was one of my favorite players for a long time as a kid. So for him to be able to do that and sign that contract and come and retire as a Flyer is really special. You hear that often with teams, with guys who you think they're going to retire, a Philly, an Eagle, a Flyer, a Sixer, and it doesn't always happen. So to see Danny Briere make the right move and sign him to that one-day contract, have him retire in the orange and black with the team that he spent so many formative years with and played so great for a long time. So that's really cool. Happy for Wayne Simmons, happy for the Flyers, happy for the city. I think that'll be a really nice moment when that happens, when he's retired at that game. So good on Briere, good on the team for having Wayne Simmons come home, have that orange and black as he makes his way into retirement officially. Moving on to the Sixers, who are doing their own sort of stretch of winning and losing. A couple days ago, they beat the Heat on ESPN. Really good game. Another sloppy sort of defensive-minded game like they had with the Knicks. Heat also without Jimmy Butler and Tyler Hero, so they were not their full team as well. But they still had Bam, still had Duncan Robinson, some of their other guys. So really well-fought game. A good Kyle Lowry game, revenge game for him. They had a lot of big leads at points. The Heat would fight back. They were to sustain those runs, pull out a win, a good Kelly Oubre game. That was great. And then yesterday, they got blown out by the Suns. Not great. The score ended up being closer than it really was. I mean, that game was pretty much over by the fourth quarter, especially after the Suns, they scored 30 in the third quarter when the Sixers only scored 19. And in the second quarter, too, there was 39-24 difference there. So not even really close in that one. Really bad Tyrese Maxey game. 6 points. There's not a lot of games you'll see him score single digits, if even under 15. And when he has those bad games, it's kind of like without Embiid, where's the scoring going to come from? Oubre had 18, which was nice. Campaign had 12 off the bench. Ricky Council came in and got 10. Jeff Doughton got 12, but that was a sort of garbage time. So in those games without Tobias as well, and Tobias has been bad, so you can't really count on him for this anyway. But without Tobias, without Embiid, if Maxey's scoring single digits, it's damn near impossible to win unless Kelly Oubre explodes for like 40 or Buddy Hield has like 30. If that doesn't happen, you're not going to win a lot of games. Not a game I expected them to win. They're in a really tough stretch of their schedule right now. So they just lost to the Suns. They're out on a West Coast trip. They have the Lakers tomorrow night, which I think they can win, but who knows? Clippers on Sunday. That to me is probably a loss. Kings on Monday, probably also a loss. And then Clippers again, this time at home in Philly on Wednesday. Still feel like that's probably a loss. And then Cavs and Raptors after that. So I think they'll probably go 1-3, 1-4, including when the Clippers come to the Sixers in this West Coast trip and stand. If they can get 2, they can win half of these games. I consider that a win. Keeping themselves in a good spot in the standings. If we look at their standings really quickly, I know they're still in a relatively good spot. It's so tight in the East. If you look at the 4 through 8 spots, I mean, look at that. It's Knicks, Magic, Pacers, Heat, and Sixers are all within 2 or so games of each other. So there's still a chance they avoid the play-in. If I were a betting man, I'd say they're going to play in the play-in. That's just the way this season's been going without Embiid. But if they can go 50% on this West Coast stretch, that would be a win in my book. And I say that because Joel Embiid, he's not coming back in March. There was initially talks that, hey, maybe he can come back the last couple weeks of March and play a couple games. Now it's looking like he is not coming back until, at the very least, the beginning of April, which leaves him a couple games of the regular season before the playoffs start. Not really great. They said he's returning to basketball-like activities, not every day, but some days. To me, this makes me really nervous. It's sort of that feeling I had when the injury initially happened, where I don't know if it's worth it. I don't think the timeline and his body is lining up where it's that he got injured, he gets surgery, he recovers, and then he's 100% by playoffs. I think anything he's doing is rushing that process, and that either means risk of re-injury or just a not 100% Joel Embiid, which we've seen every year in the playoffs. So I don't know. I think my hope, I've fleeting hope for Embiid comes back and they're this dominant team again and then they make a run. It just doesn't seem likely. It seems like either he might not even play and they might be just trying to think positive and it just never ends up happening, or they force it and he's playing before he should have been and he's maybe not conditioned right, or there's still some soreness from the surgery, or there's still some weakness there. And it's just going to be another underwhelming Embiid injured postseason performance. So this gives me the heebie-jeebies. I don't like it. There's not good energy to it. If it were me, I just shut him down and say, Maxey, take the team, go to the playoffs, do what you can, win a playoff game, try and carry the team to a series. Do this for Maxey's growth. Let him be just rest. He's probably going to play in the Olympics anyway, so he's not going to play forever. Yeah, I don't like where it's headed with Embiid's health. The timeline doesn't add up to me. It seems like we're trying to force a square peg in a round hole, and I don't think he's going to be ready and healthy and 100%. And for me, it's not worth it. Okay, I want to take a second to talk about everyone's favorite time of year. If you're a sports fan, it's March Madness. I love March Madness. On the flip side, I do not give a damn about college basketball for 99% of the year. To all you sickos out there, I know I'm one of those guys. I don't care about it, especially like in November and December when it's just starting and there's still like football and NBA. I don't care. January, February, yeah, not really either. When we get to conference championship week, football season's over. We're in the lull sort of the NBA and NHL. That's when you start to pull me in. And this year I was a little more gravitated to it in conference championship week than previous years. But other than that, I don't care. But then when it comes to March, I'm the biggest college basketball March Madness head in the world. I'm doing my brackets. I'm filling them out. I'm looking at the stats. And I'm watching every game, score checking every game, because maybe I just like the competition of filling out a bracket and wanting to win, wanting to have a good bracket. I don't know what it is, but I hate it most of the year, mainly because compared to the NBA, college basketball teams are really bad at basketball. There's just not the same skill level that you see in the NBA. The athleticism's off the charts, but there's just so many bricks and missed shots and bad turnovers that on a random Wednesday in January, I don't need to watch that. But when it's this setup, this bracket of 64 teams, do or die, this top team that's been great all season could lose to this team that snuck in, and the chaos of bad shooting and bad decision-making, that's what makes it fun. And that's why I love March Madness, but also why I don't care the rest of the season. So that to me is we're in the great time of the year. I love it. I love watching every games. So far at, 3 p.m. on Thursday, I'm 100% in my bracket thus far. I picked Duquesne to upset in the first round, and they did. I've got Oregon upsetting, and they're currently up 67-54. Hopefully that doesn't come back to bite me. I have my winner this year, if you care. I'm picking Houston. Do I really think Houston's going to win? No. But I've picked Houston as my national champion 2 years, now 3 years in a row, and this team is a better team than they were the past 2 seasons. So I can't bail on them now. I'm sticking to my guns from 3 years ago for some reason, picking Houston. On the women's side, women's college basketball has been way more interesting in the regular season than the men's college basketball. That's mostly due to Caitlin Clark and all the records she's been breaking, but also the big names at LSU and South Carolina and Dawn Staley. There's been a lot of interesting stuff with college basketball for women this season that I probably watched more regular season games for the women's than the men's. When it comes to the bracket, traditionally, there's less madness with the women's bracket. For whatever reason, most of the 1 seeds always win. I don't know why. Maybe it's just how recruiting goes in women's basketball. Just the top dog schools always get the best players, and there's never really any differentiation there. I don't know. So I'm not going super creative with my women's bracket. I think South Carolina will repeat. I think Dawn Staley's team is well coached. They're talented, and I don't think they're going to mess around. I did watch their conference championship game against who they played. It was LSU, and where there was that fight or the shoving and the ejections. And I just think South Carolina is too strong, too tough, too talented, and too well coached for them to lose to any of these teams. So I think South Carolina wins it. They're my pick on the women's side. In terms of Philadelphia basketball, surprisingly, there's only one team in both the men's and women's brackets from Philadelphia, and that's the women's Drexel Dragons. Very surprising. Nova for the men's, they were a bubble team, lost a heartbreaker in their conference championship, and they were not going to make it. Down here for them, down here for the Nova Wildcats for the women's side. No St. Joe's, no Temple. All they had is one team, Drexel from the women's side. They won the CAA conference championship. They're coming in as a 12 seed. They get to play the number 1 seed, Texas. Lucky for them. I almost talked to Amaris Baker. I chatted with her a little bit online, and she was the MVP of the CAA tournament. And you know what? They're probably going to get their asses kicked by Texas, but you never know. That's what's great about March. They're going to go and give it their all. I think I actually have Texas going pretty far. I did not pick Drexel to beat Texas just because I was being realistic. But again, it's March. Anything could happen. I do have Texas going all the way to the Final Four, I think. So if Drexel pulls off the upset, they'll ruin my women's bracket. But hey, more power to you. So I hope you do it. But anyway, it's March. I love the madness. I love the games. I think what's cool about it is even if you're not a college basketball fan, which I'm really not, or not even like a sports fan, it's sort of like the Super Bowl or other playoffs in that sort of way where you can just be a part of the action and know like basic information about, hey, these two teams are playing. This team should win because they're better, but they're losing right now, and being a part of the chaos and enjoying that. And I think it's really for everyone. Obviously, the basketball heads and the sports heads are the ones that enjoy it the most, but I think it's everyone can get involved and really have fun with it. So enjoy it. It's March. Best time of the year, according to some. Just want to finish off talking really quickly about baseball. Phillies opening day is next week. We'll have Zach Wheeler on the bump against Spencer Strider, taking on the Braves. Everyone saw Strider now says the opening day starter. Sorry, I'm rambling. And Phillies fans get excited because of our domination of Strider in the postseason, but he has dominated the Phillies in the regular season. If I were to throw money down, Phillies lose this game. I feel like Phillies lose this game 9 times out of 10. It's opening day. It's Strider. It's the Braves. While Zach Wheeler is an ace, I'm sure they lose this game. No reason for panic, but that's just my gut instinct. So excited for the Phillies. Again, I've said it multiple times. Done with spring training. I'm over it. Let's get to baseball. I can't wait to see it. The bigger story, though, with the MLB is what's going on with Shohei Ohtani. So this story has been very wild, and I'll try to get as many of the facts correct as I can. The MLB, well, first off, they started their season a week early with the Dodgers taking on the Padres in Korea. And so it was normal time in Korea. So the game was like Tuesday night at 3 a.m. For opening day, which I get it. Like it really wasn't for American fans. It was a growing the game type thing. It was for the Korean fans and Asian fans to get their taste of Major League Baseball, American baseball. And so it really wasn't for us, but definitely a weird sort of PR marketing move for baseball to have their season technically like a real meaningful game open in another country on a random time. NFL is going to do that next year in Brazil, so that just seems to be the trend as we become a more connected world, especially in the sports sense. But very strange for them in terms of the timing of it. But the big story that's come out was Shohei Ohtani, the dual pitcher and hitter for the Dodgers, signed a huge contract this offseason. His language interpreter, because he does not speak English, who are their best friends, it's been discovered that initially that the interpreter owed like $4.5 million of gambling debts, and that Shohei was basically caught paying for his debts to the bookkeeper. And initially, Shohei, it was said that he's his friend and he was just covering him and paying $4.5 million for his friend because he just signed a big new contract and he can afford it. But then Shohei's lawyers said that the interpreter stole that money from Shohei and transferred it like without his permission, basically, which is kind of insane. I don't know how that can happen. But then they were shown like earlier that day in that opening game on the bench, like laughing and having a good time. So like, I don't think that's two guys who stole from each other. Either way, it's very messy. Most people are surmising or assuming that Shohei Ohtani is probably just spending a lot of money gambling and is making his translator be the fall guy, or maybe used his translator to gamble, so it was never like fully on him, but got caught sort of sloppily paying through him. I don't know. Either way, really bad look for baseball, bad look for Shohei. This is their face of the league, just signed this multi-million-dollar contract. He's the biggest star, maybe in sports in the world right now. And to get him wrapped up in this gambling scandal is not good for anyone, not good for him, not good for baseball, not good for sports, not good for sports gambling. People have been saying as sports gambling becomes more and more an everyday part of sports culture, that it's only a matter of time before there's some sort of scandal. And I've been saying that for like 5 years now, that it's just sort of human nature, right? You get everything so involved with gambling. There's going to be players who gamble too much, get in trouble, or where games are thrown or altered because of gambling. It's just too close to the source. I know the theory is that legal gambling will stop the illegal gambling, or will replace it, or that illegal gambling happens anyway, so why not make it legal and make state revenue money off of it? I get all the reasoning there, but I just think it's becoming such a normal part of sports that it can be so easy for athletes who have everything they could ever want, like Shohei Ohtani, to get wrapped up in gambling if that is what happened. So that's a crazy story. That's something that I think will continue to unfold all month, all season, really. I think we'll keep finding out details about it, whether Shohei gets suspended or punished in any way. I doubt it. He's the golden boy of the MLB. They already have trouble with, stars and pulling in people to watch. So I don't think they suspend him, but it's just going down a slippery slope right now with the MLB and sports and gambling. But really crazy story. That's all I got for this week, or for this episode. We'll have another one shortly after this week. But I'm going to go watch some more March Madness. I'll see you guys next time.